Welcome to That's a Tap. Ready for the boxing bonanza with DJ. This is CT.
Yeah.
This episode's all about boxing. You know, you asked, we deliver. So let's talk about some of the boxing buzz. The DJ going on.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to touch on the upcoming fight between Australian champ Kambosos versus Haney. Huge fight, which we are going to be in the building.
We're going to be in the building. We're going to be there in the flesh.
Yes.
At Marvel Stadium. Good to join you, CT, for this boxing episode. I know we've been talking a little throughout our episode, saying, look, we're going to do one boxing one. Obviously, we spend a lot of our times talking about UFC, but obviously, we want to talk about all combat sports and boxing in the past 12 months has, got back into that upward trajectory with some exciting fights. We had the Canelo fight not too long ago, the Fury fight, obviously Kambosos getting those titles, and all that and whatnot. So, look, we're gonna try our best to cover sort of everything. If we miss out on anything, we do apologize. But look, without further ado, let's talk about Kambosos and Haney, right? We're going to be there. Tickets are booked, right?
Yeah.
Marvel Stadium. The last time we were at Marvel Stadium, it was a packed house, 57,000 for UFC 243, I believe.
Yep.
Whitaker versus Adesanya. It was a crazy atmosphere, and then we're just hoping to relive that. What are your thoughts?
Yep. Loving it. The fact is, post-COVID, UFC's been leading the way with full arenas, DJ, and to have another big stadium show back in our home city. Marvel Stadium, the place that we were, like you said, just see a fighter that's sort of really put himself on the map. I must admit, before his title win against Teofimo, I wasn't really too knowledgeable on George Kambosos, but obviously he earned my respect. The way he gained victory, and he seems like a really people's kind of champ. With his rise.
Well, look, I was aware of George Kambosos and sort of in that boxing circuit, and it was a really good fight. But he's undefeated in his pro career, so that obviously tells a lot as well. I believe he started his pro career when he was 19, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was, torn between from the interviews after the Teofimo fight. I listened to some of his interviews, and he was saying he was torn between rugby league or boxing, and then he decided to go with boxing. And thank God, because he's gone undefeated in his pro record, and he's got, like, I believe, over 100 fights throughout his career, and almost 85 wins, so which is great. I think he really established himself in that last fight against Teofimo Lopez, who was a big name, right? We're avid UFC fans, and we do watch boxing, but we know the who's and who's, right? And then obviously Teofimo Lopez was one of them, given he beat Lomachenko last time around to take the titles from him. So I think then going into that fight, there was a lot of delay in that fight too. If you remember, for various reasons, I believe illnesses and COVID, etc., whatever it is, the fight kept getting pushed back, and then eventually they made the fight. Pretty monumental, given the fact that Kambosos, an Australian, goes into enemy territory in America, and I think, look, this is just I guess just what people say, but the general thought process is that it is harder to go win in a judge's scorecard in enemy territory, especially in America, which is why the likes of Fury, that first fight, that draw, as well, is so controversial. Look, having said that, to be able to do that, and the fact that the judges, and I'm glad the judges gave the right decision, because I did think Kambosos established himself, and he sort of kept a sustained pace in that fight. I remember watching it live on TV, and it was a very entertaining fight. I think the pace he kept, the heart he showed, and sort of outboxed Teofimo Lopez as well. There was a lot of, I guess the corner did let him down for Teofimo Lopez, but I think George Kambosos went in with a really good game plan, really good mindset, accurate striking, and obviously, you know, got the win, and, you know, got the titles. So he's the, I believe, and let me get this right because he's a champ, so I want to get this right. So he's the WBA, IBF, WBO, and the ring lightweight champion, right? So in boxing, as you know, there's multiple titles. You know, in the same weight class, you could have multiple champions. That's the scenario we're looking at here. Is that we've got Devin Haney, who is, again, let me make sure that I'm saying this right. So we got Devin Haney, who is the WBC lightweight title holder. So what they're trying to do here is unify the titles, which is great to see, because I think sort of that's what we'd like to see. And maybe like the likes of Canelo and Fury, they you know, they're leading the way in this unifying the titles, because at the end of the day, you know, we're so used to the UFC model, and I feel that's the right model. How can you have more than one champion in the same weight class? There's only one champion, right? So I think that's sort of the path that boxing's now taken as well. So this fight is quite exciting in that sense, because it is for the unified title. Like, they're going to unify those titles, so whoever wins takes it all.
Yeah.
Right. So either Haney could win 4 titles, or George could add that extra one, and he will be the unified undisputed champion of that lightweight class. Look, on the other hand, Haney as well is another big name. Very reputed within that boxing community. You know, there's the 4 horsemen, you could call them. At the time, it was Teofimo Lopez, Haney, Gervonta Davis, and Ryan Garcia. But now, obviously, Kambosos has stepped in, and Teofimo Lopez, I believe, is stepping up to the other weight division. So, you know, look, you know, to be able to fight that, eventually we'd hope that all of these guys will fight each other. That's what we want to see. So, you know, look, I think we're in for a firecracker event. I believe Haney fought Joseph Diaz in his most recent fight. He's been calling out for this fight. Again, props to him, right? Just similar to how Kambosos went to the US, right? We got Haney, who's also another notable name, coming down to Australia, to enemy territory, to take on and sort of defend his title, but also to try and launch that campaign to get the titles of George, right? So, I mean, look, I'm excited. They're always in exciting fights. I know Devin Haney had a bit of a dud fight not too long ago, but again, look, it always happens. But the formula's there for a good boxing fight, across 12 rounds, right? So, yeah, look, you know, we're going to be there early, and we're going to be there to, you know, get their popcorn ready and sort of enjoy a really good main event. I believe there was some controversy as well. I believe Devin Haney's father was not allowed into the country because of some prior history or criminal record, or some sort of, I don't want to misquote this, but yeah, I read in the news that his father was denied entry into Australia. So could be a blow to his camp. We don't know in what capacity he is supported. But again, look, the most recent interviews I've seen, he seems in good spirits. He's quite confident. Both fighters are quite confident, right? But just to add as well, similar to the Volkanovskis and, you know, Robert Whittaker, so, you know, we have another homegrown champ, you know, obviously Australian born as well, and then you know, performing in that highest stage of boxing and representing the country so admirably, and you know, being the champion, it is a great pride for us and a privilege to be able to see him fight live. I think he won over a lot of hearts and a lot of respect from a lot of people, given the way he handled himself after the win as well. He was quite respectful towards Teofimo, who wasn't handling the loss the best way possible. Even in that immediate post-fight interview, you know, he tried to claim that he wanted the rematch or he won the fight. Regardless, I mean, I think he handled himself with class, but he's also a massive family man. And I think, yeah, look, you know, a great representative of the nation and of the sport. So can't wait to see him go out there and do his work.
Yeah, you said it. And I think this could be, you know, let's not underestimate the fact that it's a full stadium. It's going to be a hostile environment for Devin Haney. Yeah, just to paint the picture, everyone listening, you know, 55,000, you know, with an Australian homegrown guy. So the whole stadium, each and every single one, 54,099 probably going to be, you know, cheering for George Kambosos. So you can imagine what that's going to be like, you know, for the visitor. And with that said, he's got everything ahead of him. It's a great opportunity to become, I guess, more of a landmark name in Australian sport. To have to sell out a big stadium. I'm sure that's what this kid from Sydney would have been dreaming of. I mean, I know the fight's in Melbourne. He's a Sydney boy, but I guess he probably never would have envisioned him selling out a huge football stadium, in his own country as a champion. I mean, this is just the pinnacle of a fighter. You can't paint that any higher.
No, that's actually spot on. Now that I think about it, to be able to one day do that, and he's living that dream. I think that's amazing to headline as a champion in one of the biggest stadiums in the country and be that champion. Oh man, even thinking about it for him, I'm happy for him and the journey he has come. So definitely. And look, another commendable thing about him, again, this is something that we hear from his training partners who've spoken on social media, etc., is that he's always the hardest worker in the room. He's always putting in the work, and it's no shortcuts. And you can see that there are some people who are just sometimes naturally talented and don't put as much work, whereas there are some guys who just put their head down and they work really hard, right, every single day in, day out. And they're the ones who reap the rewards. Again, Alexander Walker obviously comes to mind as well. And I guess, look, this time the crowd's going to be very definitive compared to the last time we were there, because I believe last time there was maybe a 70-30 split. There was a little bit of support for Adesanya as well from that New Zealand perspective, given we're so close and people can fly over. But I guess this time, like the USA and Australia, I think it's going to be a very definitive split there. So look, it's going to be entertaining. 5th of June, right? We'll be there, and obviously we'll be sharing our thoughts afterwards as well.
The weekend before the big UFC Singapore card as well. So we'll be bringing back-to-back weeks of coverage.
It's going to be
from the stadiums, with DJ CT in the stadium for Haney versus Kambosos, and CT in the crowd for UFC 275.
It's going to be a pretty jam-packed week for you. You go to Marvel Stadium, you see Kambosos and Haney, and then you jump on a flight, you're in Singapore, and again, we'll talk about UFC later.
Let's see if they're doing the presses or weigh-ins or whatever here in Melbourne.
They could, they will actually. We'll try and cover that as well, obviously, and bring as much info as possible to you guys. Also, I guess, again, being a UFC fan, being an MMA fan, why this event is significant for us, and I think we need to obviously point that out too, is that there is a little bit, we'd love to see more UFC events down here, right, in the APAC region. And one of the things that Dana White's openly said is, you can't have events like that. They get locked down. They get, can't risk doing that. So this will be a good example where you will be able to see, wow, they sold out a stadium. But right now, the bragging rights belong to the UFC. Say we went to Australia and we sold out a stadium, whereas I think that we will repeat that again, obviously, on the 5th of June, hopefully, fingers crossed. And then from there on, I guess it just would be an indication to the likes of Dana White to say, hey, it is okay. You can come here and do events here. Because this is a massive region for them at the moment. If you look at the fighters that they have. So, look, it's significant for us too. So, hope Australia turns up and puts on a show from a fan point of view to show these promoters that, we are bankable and they can come here and they can, have successful events.
I'm looking forward to it. Let's get it. I think it's going to be a successful event regardless of the result of the fight. All of that sold out. We've got some great seats, so we're bringing you. We'll upload some footage from the channel.
Legal footage.
Legal footage. Not the actual feed. But hey, let's quickly touch on some other huge boxing news. Obviously, we'll talk Canelo, but we'll touch on the Tyson Fury, Dylan White, because speaking of stadium things, that it doesn't get any bigger than Wembley, and the way Fury did it.
Man.
So I'm going to ask you that question of, do you think he stays true to his word, and that's the last competitive boxing fight? And we know we might see him in an exhibition against Francis.
But a competitive
do you think it could be the last competitive one, or do you think a winner of let's say AJ, let's say if he fights Wilder.
I just feel like the excitement for that AJ fight, right, has been there since day one, right? Even like, you know, even when we were not as hardcore about boxing as MMA, you know, we've always had that appetite for that fight. So if that never happens, I feel like it's you know, a bit sad. Having said that, I mean, look, we're used to these kind of things. We're used to the Tony Khabib fight not happening, right? Look, to answer that question, I'm just going to say yes and a no. I guess yes, because I mean, he's done what not many people can do. Like you saw Khabib do it, is be dominant, dominate your sport, and leave no trace of doubt, and then leave the sport as a champion on top. I'm saying no because I hope he comes back for that, AJ. I mean, look, I do want him to get, regardless of who it is, AJ Usyk winner, right? You can't really, I mean, Usyk's a good fighter. You can't, boxer. You can't really say who's going to win in that fight. So I would like to see that fight so that Fury unifies it. I don't know, like I feel like Fury would be a little bit more easier to convince than Khabib in terms of coming back. But let's see, look, you know, even if he doesn't, he's done it all, right? He's been the unified champion. He's done it all. And I think we spoke before, we touched on this saying the boxing in the past few months have had a revival. I think there's maybe two key names that are in the center of that revival, and one of them is Fury. Right? I think he brought that excitement back. He brought that sort of, you know, a respectful trash talking, but at the same time backing it up with performance, and the story itself was inspiring from where he was to, you know, recover and return to where he was. You know, it's about someone at the top who fell and then got back up and came back up again. It's like a very inspirational story, and an amazing person, very likable person as well, Tyson Fury is. So I think sort of a lot of credit goes to him for reviving that and bringing those eyeballs back into the sport of boxing, right? I mean, no one can argue that the trilogy with Wilder was one of the best ever, right? That third fight had it all, right? Like, you know, the first one was a close one. I thought Fury won. Second one was very definitive, but then there was that stoppage. So Wilder wasn't happy and he wanted that rematch. He came in, Wilder dropped him, and then Fury dropped him. And look, you know, sort of, it was a bit of a, I felt it was a bit of a step down when he fought Dillian White, not just in terms of a skill base, but more so for the magnitude of the fight. I felt like it felt like a smaller fight, because when the Wilder fight was happening, or when it could have been because they announced the AJ Fury fight and then Wilder activated the clause, and then we thought they'll go back to that fight, but they didn't. Right. Obviously, AJ lost as well to Usyk, but it just felt like, you know, because I felt maybe Fury could do a bigger fight than that, right? But then again, you know, like you said, Wembley Stadium, hometown, you know, sold it out, went out on top. It was a masterclass performance. He was dominating the whole time. I honestly was expecting to win quite convincingly, which he did. You know, knocked him out. So, look, you know, if he doesn't come back, I think we witnessed one of the greats. You know, we were there, and we've seen him, like, not obviously live in person, but we've seen him perform live through our television. So we're very lucky. So, and look, do you think the Ngannou fight happens?
Yeah, I think it does. I think Tyson's a bit of a joker in terms of, like, you know, he loves what he does. Like, clearly, and I believe him when he said it's not about the money. You know, obviously he's earned a boatload, and it's easy to say that when you can sail off to the sunset, like you said. But the thing that just hit me when you were just talking about it was, how many fighters get to go out on their terms? You know, like you said, they've cleared the division, they've done everything. And what I just thought just now is that Fury is that far ahead of his sort of era, that, you know, each era, you pick a boxer out of each era that you could actually think that did that era justice. And you could compare them to greats in other eras. I think Fury would be one that you would convincingly just pick him from this era to fight the best out of other eras, you know. And he would have held his own, probably, you know.
Exactly. And he is also someone who never ducked a fight. You know, before Fury returned back into the scene, the top three at the time was Fury, Wilder, and AJ, and they weren't really fighting each other. There was a lot of teasing, but it was that. Whereas Fury stepped in. He said, "Okay, I'll fight Wilder." And then obviously, and then he was ready to fight AJ as well.
He didn't make a fuss when he activated the third one. He just let's market it, let's get on with it.
Yeah, never did. But here's the thing with the fighter, I guess, is that yes, money and everything, but more than everything, the reason they chose this sport to make their living is not just to make money, but also because they have that desire to fight. They find that exciting. Right? When they're in the middle of that combat and they're each. So when you start seeing other people fight, right? I mean, look at Conor McGregor. He could walk away now and he's set for life, for generations. The reason he's still, because he has that itch still. He feels that whenever he sees someone else fight, I want to be there. I want to feel that again, like the energy of the crowd and everything. So I think, look, Fury is another fan favorite, and we might get that again, right? Like, I mean, he's still young, right? We hope we get to see him again. But at the same time, like I said, he's got nothing else to prove.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think it was look. If he never fights professionally again, I'm comfortable with what he did at Wembley. He's back in his home. Fighting one of the other better ones from his country land. I think like you hit on the Usyk thing. I think the loss, they were on track, but the loss to Usyk derailed. It just derailed any sort of excitement for AJ.
Thing, that's true.
Because he lost his last one, and like Fury did what he should have done. He gave the next best contender. It's not his fault that he wasn't on his class. I mean, like imagine Tyson. Some fights with Tyson would have been a bit boring because in his era he was just clearing everybody out, and it's like, oh, when's this fight going to end in 3 seconds? A lot of the fans back then would have been thinking, all right, ding ding. We just expect Tyson to knock this bum out.
That always has been the complaint with boxing, right? Is that the way you said it? Right? The way it's it's always the fights are planned in such a way so that they can win, so they build that record of 50-0 and 60-0. You know what I mean? Whereas I just don't think Fury is someone who cared. He just wanted to fight the best, and he was fighting Klitschko, and Klitschko was in his prime, and he beat him, right? So look. Let's wait and see. I think I'm still 50-50 on the Ngannou fight, only not because of anything to do with Fury or Ngannou. I think they both will fight. It's just more the UFC's involvement in it. Dana White's still pretty adamant that he will not want that boxing clause in there in Francis's contract. I don't know how it'll happen. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see how that happens. But maybe it could happen inside the octagon. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, so we'll wait and see. But
just on that, stay tuned for part 2. This is a 2-parter. Two-part episode. And part 2, we're going to be hitting on the Canelo loss, monumental loss. What does that mean for him? We're going to be talking about some of the other boxing, big fights that are coming up as well. Like I said, it's a bit reinvigorated. And I will talk a little bit more as we get closer to the Kambosos. Cam.
Sounds good, CD.
Perfect. Well, this is part 1, Boxing Bonanza on That's a Tap.
And we'll catch you on another episode. That's all right. See you guys.